starts with identities. We have talked about the identities. I have given you the identities. They are in your book on page 568 if you want them in front of you. Do you have those in your notes? I've given them to you before. Do you have them in your notes, or do I need to put them back up here?
Like sign, one, then all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
That's in here.
They're in your notes.
That's there.
Do you want me to put them up here so you'll have them in front of you?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to say them, and I'm going to write them on the board, not on the smart board. So they'll be in front of us while we're working the problems. But that means those at home are going to have to write them down, right? Yeah. Okay, they are on page 568. Cosecant x equals 1 over sine of x. Secant of x is 1 over cosine of x. Cotangent of x is 1 over tan x. Do you know those? That you do. So can I keep going with the rest of them? Okay. What is sine of x? They're just opposite, aren't they? Cosine of x is 1 over secant of x. And tan x is 1 over cotangent of x. Right? You know those. Do you know that tan x is sine x over cosine of x? And cotangent of x is cosine of x over sine of x. You should have that in your notes somewhere. But just in case you do not, you also need to know that sine squared x plus cosine squared x, anybody know what that equals? 1. Did you know, or did you cheat and look?
I remember that from last time. I guessed and then I looked over it.
Okay.
I don't remember which was 1 or just negative 1.
Tan squared x plus 1 equals secant squared x. Right? Is this looking familiar? Maybe you don't remember it, but you remember seeing it. 1 plus cotangent squared equals cosecant squared x. And the odd even functions in that sine of negative x is negative sine of x. Cosine of negative x is cosine of x. And tan of negative x is negative tan of x.
So why are those all different from each other?
Because when you talk about a negative, that just means we're going up or down. So if I go up 30 degrees, is sine positive? If I go down 30 degrees, is sine negative?
Yeah.
So they're opposite.
So it's the
Yes, but cosine up 30 degrees is positive, and down 30 degrees is positive. That's why it's different. Does that make sense? All right. That's what you have to know for today. And by the way, you have to learn this. You have to learn this. I'm not giving you a choice. kind of like the triangles. You do not have a choice. You have to learn this. Now, let's work some problems. Before I work the problems, though, do you remember how to get a common denominator? If I gave you this, okay, so what's the common denominator? XY. I'm going to put LCD, which means, you know what LCD means? Lowest common denominator. Nothing hard. Okay, what if I give you 1 over tan x and 1 over cotan x? What's the common denominator? Okay, how did you get the common denominator for x and y? Can I multiply these two together? So the common denominator is tan x cotan x. You all wanted that to be hard, didn't you? Okay. What if I have 1 over what? Yes, but if I had numbers up above where I was trying to add them together and get a common denominator, we're not multiplying them, we're seeing how we can add them. And that's a good observation, by the way. So what if I have 1 plus cosine of x and 1 over sine of x? What would be my common denominator? Do you know? Let's go with the same philosophy. If I want a common denominator, I just multiply my denominators together. Is that right? So my common denominator would be sine of x times 1 plus cosine of x. Huh? Oh. All right. Do you remember how to FOIL? Okay. But if I give you this, how are you going to get the answer? Okay. Now I want you to learn a shortcut.
There's a shortcut.
These are calculators.
Oh,
No.
it's the one equation. Crap, what's the one equation? It's an algebra.
Well, I don't know.
There's like a lot of equals in it, like basically came out, like you had to like do the opposite of FOIL to get it.
I don't think, I don't know.
So it's not what we're doing.
Okay. When I have something squared, the shortcut is you square the first, multiply the two together, times 2. What would that give me? 2xy. I always put the number first, and I always put letters in alphabetical order. That way I can tell if they match up if I want to add later. And then I square the last. Have you got it? Square the first, multiply the two together times 2, square the last. And the reason I want you to learn the shortcut is when we put trig in there, if you start foiling it, it's going to get really long sometimes. Because what if I ask you to do sine of x? Oh, let's do a minus. Let's do a minus just for fun. Minus cosine of x squared. I want to know what that is. What's my rule?
Sine squared
Sine squared x.
minus.
Wait a minute. You understand why I put the squared here? That means the whole thing is squared, not just the x. I could put sine of x in parentheses, squared, but that shortens it. Now I multiply I do what? Multiply the two together and what? So what is that going to be?
Minus 2 sine cosine.
Sine x cosine x?
Then
Right?
sine squared.
Plus cosine squared x.
Yeah.
Bless you. Would you agree with that?
I would agree.
Okay. Everybody okay with that? So we're going to common denominators. We're not going to use these much today, even though we're introducing them. We're going to use them a bunch tomorrow. All right? So now I FOIL, what if I wanted to factor? And I think that is what
That's what I was
Chandler was thinking of. What if I want to factor? How do I factor?
I would like it has to equal, it has to add up to the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do I factor this?
Well, that one's easy.
That's
That's just.
easy?
Yeah.
It's what?
X plus y, X plus y.
You all know that? When you have, it's called the difference of two squares. That means a squared minus a squared. It always factors into a plus and a minus. So this is going to be x plus y, x minus y. Does that make sense? That is called difference of two squares. Squared minus a squared. Anytime you see a squared minus a squared, this is going to happen. All right? So what if I had tan squared x minus secant squared x? Is that a difference of two squares? So what's it going to be? Tan x plus secant x, tan x minus secant x. Right? You good with that?
What if it's positive?
What if it's positive?
Tan x plus.
If it's like this,
Yeah.
won't factor. Has to be a minus.
Okay. So you just get
So,
rid of it.
well, and it gives you a problem like that. And the answer is, it won't factor.
Would you answer that as no solution or undefined?
Well, it's really not either one, because we're not looking for an answer. We're just looking to factor it. And sometimes the book will say it's prime already, meaning it won't factor. But as you can just tell me it won't factor, or its lowest terms, or whatever. Okay. What if I ask you to factor this? Can you? Is it the opposite of what I did when I had how do I say this? this is squared, is this those times 2?
Yeah.
When that happens, it is this. Okay? Is that all right with you? So what is this going to factor into?
Sine minus cosine squared.
You all agree? Quantity squared?
Takes longer to write it down and figure out what it is.
Sometimes you are correct. This one I'm a little concerned about, just because I'm thinking you should have done quite a bit with this in the spring and you weren't here, so I don't know if you did. Did you do something with a cube?
I have no idea.
A little
I
bit?
don't-
All right.
I remember multiplying.
I remember working with multiple exponents.
I remember cubing stuff.
When it's a cubed and a cubed. Is it?
What?
Cube plus a cube or cube minus cube, right? The first thing you do is you write it without the cubes.
Yeah, you have to write it.
Write it without the cubes. Like this.
I do remember this. We did a little bit.
If you don't remember, that's okay. We're going over it. Okay? You with me what I've done? Then, you square the first. What does that give me?
Squared.
X squared.
Yeah. Okay, I do remember this. Yeah.
Opposite sign. What's opposite plus? Minus. Multiply the two together. What does that give me?
Squared.
XY.
Oh, that, oh, it's not just,
What? It's opposite sign.
so what if the beginning was negative, would that?
And we're going to do that
validate it
next.
all?
We're going to do that next.
That's like.
And then square the last.
So why don't we have the total?
It doesn't have a 2 there. Not when we factor cubes. Uh-huh.
Is this same or opposite always positive? This?
Uh-huh.
That's what I thought. I worked with it first semester last year, and I was like, this looks vaguely
Yeah.
familiar.
Same.
I actually know it.
What she's saying is same, opposite, always positive.
Oh, so.
Yeah.
That's what you're referring to. Okay. I like keep hearing same.
What did you call it, Kate?
So,
So, yeah.
I do not remember that. I was in the, let's say, not as smart, advanced. It was still advanced, but.
So, this is so. I didn't know if you had learned it as that.
Okay.
Good job, Kate. All right.
I actually know this now.
So what if I had x cubed minus y cubed? Same, which is
So,
x minus y, right? Times, what's it going to be? X squared plus xy plus y squared.
what's this little thing called then?
That's so.
That's still,
Yeah, because it's the same sign, opposite sign,
Oh, that's.
always positive,
Okay. I
right?
think I'm getting it now.
You think you're getting it now?
Maybe.
All right, now I need to give you a hard problem, right?
Yes. Yes. Unfortunately. It's the most beneficial but the least favorite part of school.
All right. This is where I think it can get confusing because everybody kind of teaches this a little bit different. So I can show you how I do it. What I can't show you is how you learned it. The way I do this, first of all, it's an X and a Y. So I know each set of parentheses is going to have an X and a Y, don't I? Do you know that? So what I do, this is the way I do it. If you learned it different, I don't want to reteach you. I just want you to be able to do it. Is I multiply these two together, the first and the last, which gives me what? Negative 24? So I want two numbers that multiply to negative 24 and add to my middle number, 10.
Yeah.
Is that how you learned it?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. That makes it easier. So what two numbers multiply to negative 24 and add to 10?
6 and 4 and 12. Negative 2 and 12, it's negative 24.
Yeah, it's negative 24, guys.
Also, 6.
I remember that. I always mess up on that part.
So you think it's 12 and negative 2?
No, I think it's negative 12.
Well, negative 12 would give me a negative 10.
Oh, shoot, you were right. You were correct.
So I have 12 and negative 2. We agree on those numbers.
Oh, yes.
What do I put those numbers over?
You put them in place for this.
No? This may be where we're different. Take both of those numbers and put them over this. Put them over 3.
Oh, right. She gave us 2 different methods. This is one of them, and this is the one that I never used because it didn't make any sense to me.
Well, use the method. I don't want you to learn my way. I want you to be able to factor.
Yeah. I don't remember this, but I just remember that I
Okay,
did.
why did I put it over 3?
It's a good question.
Because that was the first number. Because that was the first number. Reduce. Will that second one reduce?
Oh, I
This one will. Right? The bottom number is first, the top number is second. So this is 1x plus 4y. All right? What is the next one? 3x minus 2y.
Okay. This is
Oh,
kind of exact.
boy.
I do recall this.
You do? Good. You want to do another one?
Yes.
Can I go harder?
That's it. You don't have to.
That's it.
Oh,
That's it.
so,
It's a long process.
sort of.
I kind of like this because this is like a lot of the algebra, and algebra makes more sense to me than physics. Algebra gives me a certain sense of satisfaction. Like you solve it out, and you're just like, that makes sense. It's not like science and things like this, like make up like
oh, sorry, minus okay? I want to factor this. Look at your numbers. We're going to ignore this sine and cosine. Look at the numbers. Do I have a 6, a -1, and a -1? So what multiplies to -6 and adds to what? -1? Do we agree? Everybody know where those came from? What numbers are those? -3 and +2? What do I do with those two numbers? Put them over my first number of 6. Then what do I do? Always reduce. This is a 1 and a 2, and this is a 1 and a 3. So my answer is 2 sine x minus cosine x. Everybody understand where that came from? Times what? 3 sine x plus cosine x? Right? Does that make sense?